Welcome to I'm Your Target Demographic. Today we're going to be covering something called X-Force. X-Force is a spin-off from the X-Men franchise, and it's something they've been talking about a lot recently that either will come up as a new movie, a new franchise, or it may come up as a TV show on Fox. They've been toying around with both ideas, but something tells me X-Force is going to hit the mainstream media pretty soon. So that means you're going to want to know what they're talking about. Now, X-Force is something really cool because it's an area of the X-Men world that we've never seen. This is a black ops group of mutants that go out and they stop threats to mutant kind before they really happen. So imagine there's a politician that's causing disturbances, they're gonna kind of make life really hard for mutants. Or imagine there's a supervillain that's kind of underground starting something. The world doesn't know that these battles are happening, but X-Force is the one that goes in and takes out threats, kind of without the media knowing about it. So imagine that as a movie, right? A small, close-knit team going in, stopping things. The closest we've seen is actually from Wolverine Origins. Before Deadpool becomes horrible, you see kind of the team go in, they work together, they stop things, they're taking out leaders of anti-mutant regimes. It's a cool idea, then the movie tanked after that. So now, imagine a movie completely focused on that. So now we're going to cover kind of who could be on this team, why you should be excited, and some things that we might want from a movie or TV show like this. Now, in the comics, the leader of X-Force is often Wolverine, or at least the newer comics that are out right now. Now, Hugh Jackman has said that he's not down to do a lot of X-Men movies left after this. We're lucky if we get a few more out of him. And it's unlikely he would do kind of a spin-off movie like this. So you may see pictures of X-Force throughout this video that have Wolverine in them, but we're going to assume that they're going to take him out of this, which I hope they do to give the spotlight to some other heroes we haven't seen. So the natural leader for this group is a character called Cable. Now, Cable's origin can be a little confusing. Cable is actually the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey from the X-Men movies. But he grows up and he lives in a future similar to in the movie Days of Future Past. Things are not great, and he wants to stop this from happening. So he time travels back to current day. So he's an adult, probably older than Cyclops, but he is Cyclops' son. Wow. I don't know if they're going to go to that place because the X-Men movies have ignored some other really important things, such as Professor X and the Juggernaut being brothers, or Cyclops and Havoc from X-Men First Class being brothers. So I don't know if they're even going to touch on the fact that Cable is Cyclops and Jean Grey's son. Or maybe they'll just leave it open, so it's like he could, but they don't say it. We'll see. So he comes back in time. But he's infected with this technovirus that it's making his organic material into like a metallic, non-organic substance. So he's constantly fighting this battle of becoming a machine. So with that, he's able to kind of tap into machines and use them and kind of communicate with machines and hack into computers and stuff. But his natural mutant ability is telepathic, so he can kind of read minds, he can telekinetic, he can move things with his minds. He's very powerful, but he has to focus so much of his energy on stopping this virus that he very rarely taps into his full amount of power. He's also known for a lot of weaponry, very militant, and so he's the clear leader of X-Force because he's seen the future where these things come to pass and he wants to stop them. He has that conviction. One way that he wants to stop this future is to come back in time and stop the mutant apocalypse. Who kind of ruins things for everyone. So it makes sense with X-Men Apocalypse coming out in a couple summers that Cyclops might be introduced in that movie. That this is why he comes back in time to stop this, but then he stays and forms X-Force and kind of does these black ops. So that could be a natural connection for him. Another character that's common in the X-Force storylines is a character called Deadpool. We've seen Deadpool before in Wolverine Origins. He's played by Ryan Reynolds, and he was really cool when he was Ryan Reynolds. right? He was perfect for it. He had the mouth, he was kind of snarky, he was demolishing guys, like, it was awesome. But then the movie made a lot of mistakes, so we're not going to talk about that. It'd be great to get Ryan Reynolds back because he said he'd love to do it, but by the time this movie happens, that may not be an option. But regardless, let's talk about Deadpool. Deadpool is a product of the Weapon X program, which is the same program that created Wolverine. All right, so they kind of took Wolverine's healing factor, and they said, this is something we want to use, and they gave it to Deadpool. But his is even more incredible than Wolverine's. Deadpool is notorious for being blown up, decapitated, losing limbs, but he can survive it all. He's nearly unkillable. Now, because he has this healing factor, there's some side effect that caused kind of all these weird growths and cancer to spread across his body, so that's why now he's covered from head to toe in this outfit. So they could potentially get Ryan Reynolds to voice Deadpool and not require a lot of time, which would be awesome, and then get someone else to stand in as the body, because you never see his face because he's scarred. So that's kind of cool. That leaves open for some possibility. He's also really deadly with swords. He has a lot of guns. He has a lot of gadgets, and so for a while he has like a machine that can teleport him from place to place. He has machines that can create illusions, and so he can kind of like make people think something's going on, like holograms. Very tricky, and so in a movie about spec ops and kind of like getting around massive obstacles, his skill set is perfect. Now, Deadpool is strangely loved by the internet. There are memes about him, like everyone loves him. And so this is a character that you'll see and you're like, why does everyone love Deadpool? And most often, it's because Deadpool does something where he breaks the fourth wall, which the fourth wall came from the origin term in theater where there's like 3 walls and the fourth is clear. So it's like the audience, like this is the fourth wall. So Deadpool, in the comics, something will happen and then he'll look at you, at the reader, and he'll make comments, he'll tell you what's happening. There's a really entertaining Deadpool video game that just came out. You can read my review on imyourtargetdemographic.com. And in the game, he will talk to you as a player and tell you how to get past obstacles and how to play the game. Really interesting. So in a movie, that could be really cool where Deadpool looks to you in the movie theater and tells you, hey, here's some exposition you need to know. So it could be really cool. It might be more suitable for a Deadpool solo movie. I don't know how that would work with the dynamics of XForce, but it's something he's known for and something that people love. Another character that will likely show up because she's a constant in a lot of X-Force comics is a character called Domino. Domino is a mutant, and her power is essentially luck. So she can alter probability of something happening. So as bullets are shooting at her, she can see where they are and the probability of missing them, and so she can basically change the world around her to suit her. So it's essentially like extreme luck. So things always work out for her. She is kind of a mercenary type. She has a lot of guns, very skilled. And she becomes the love interest of Cable because the two of them are in the team for such a long time together. And it'd be cool to see her kick some ass on the big screen. Now, in recent years, maybe in the past like 10 years or so, a character has kind of been created and been really famous in X-Force that I'm unfamiliar with, but I did some research and it sounds really interesting. Because I'm used to like old school X-Men and old school comics. I kind of been out of the game for a while. But this character sounds like something that could really work in a movie like this. And that character is called Phantom X. Phantom X is, okay, to bear with me, this origin story is a little weird. Was essentially created as a super sentinel, like a mutant hunter, but I guess somehow escaped from that process and kind of lived a life as like a thief and trying to survive and get by. And his skill set is something that he calls misdirection, which is the ability to create realistic illusions that lead people to believe that reality is different than it really is. You lead them to believe that there's a bridge across this gap and there's not, so they walk to their doom, right? So like kind of cool things like that, or believing that he is somewhere that he's not. Really interesting. When he was being raised in this artificial intelligence, it created like a version of Paris that he lived in, so he calls himself Jean Philippe. And so he talks with like a French accent, really interesting. but he's essentially like a trained assassin and killer, but escaped from them, found the X-Men for safety. Really interesting. Now, his nervous system is external to his body, so it's called Eva. And when Eva feels pain, he feels pain, and vice versa. But it's able to move kind of on its own. She's able to kind of shoot beams and help him out, but it's not attached to him, so it's very strange. Now, if we were talking a Black Ops movie about heists and assassinations, his skill set would be really useful. Someone else on the team that is serving kind of current day is a former X-Men named Psylocke. Psylocke is a powerful telepath that's able to focus her mental energy into weaponry. So she can have like a katana, knives, things made of mental energy. And she's a trained martial artist, so she just generally kicks ass. And she's able to kind of read thoughts, control minds, and then focus that so hard into actual weapons. Super cool. We probably won't see her in an X-Men movie anytime soon, but this gives her that chance to be in the spotlight and get some really cool stories. She can even focus this mental energy into essentially mental blasts, like a migraine, but it can get so intense that it can incapacitate or even kill someone. And now there's a few other members of X-Force that we've already seen in these other X-Men movies, but they've been kind of relegated to support characters, but they can bring these other people in. So some of those heroes, the most notable is Angel. Angel appeared in X-Men 3, The Last Stand, and Ben Foster did a really great job, but the script didn't give him a lot to do. So it'd be cool to see Ben Foster come back as Angel and be on this Spec Ops team and do some really cool stuff, as opposed to that other movie that kind of we want to forget about. As a bonus, Angel and Psylocke have a bit of a thing, so we could play that up. Another one who served for a long time is Colossus, who was actually in, 3 or 4 of the X-Men movies, but never got to do anything cool. Colossus is one of my favorite heroes, and he's always been amazing, but he's always just kind of standing around. Like, he is indestructible. His skin can turn into metal, but they never used him. So putting him on the Spec Ops team where he can do some real damage would be really cool for that character. Another one that kind of fills the same role as Colossus would is a character called Warpath. Warpath appeared in Days of Future Past. He's super strong. He's kind of got agility. He's like a near perfect human. Kind of similar to probably what Captain America is like. But he's really strong. And so I don't know if they would put Warpath and Colossus in the same movie because they kind of serve the same function. But if they weren't going to go the route of Colossus, Warpath would be someone else that's already established in the world. So they might as well use him. And lastly, we have a character called Sunspot, which also appeared in Days of Future Past. He's able to kind of create heat and flame and turn into fire. Again, not a lot to do in Days of Future Past, so it'd be cool to see him in a more expanded role in X-Force, where he's able to kind of use those skills to get through different obstacles. And again, already established in the world. Now, what do we want from an X-Force movie or a TV show? What do we want? Imagine how cool this would be, right? A team, a small team, 5 or 6 people that are trying to stop this major threat. But the world doesn't know about it, right? So it's undercover, it's heists, it's, there's a bunker secured by this many things. How do we get in? How do we get to this one guy that we need to stop? Super cool. Like, this could be the chance for these characters. Phantom X is never going to be in an X-Men movie, but in X-Force, he could steal the show. One of the coolest things is that this isn't black and white. In the other X-Men movies, it tends to be right versus wrong, right? It's Professor X versus Magneto. But here it's like, what are we willing to do? Right? If we take down this guy who's gonna then do horrible things, like, is that justified? And this is some of the stuff that's gonna be tackled in Days of Future Past, is if we let this assassination attempt go through, will this make the world a better place, or do we need to let these people survive? So there's a lot of gray area, there's not a lot of right and wrong. Morality is kind of complicated. The movie would be very action-driven. It would be a small team we'd get a lot of screen time with. And this really gives us the chance to see some of these heroes that we don't get to see, which partially leads me to believe that they may end up going the route of a TV show. That this is a small team, get relatively unknown actors, and make it a weekly series of here's the big threat, but how do we take out this epic villain? Little by little, let's take him out. Or here's, all the things we need to steal to make this thing happen. It would definitely work as a TV show. These characters aren't big names that you're going to go to the theater to see. So on a television show, it might really work if they're not willing to take the chance on a feature film. So still pretty early. It'll likely be after X-Men Apocalypse that we see anything happen. But that would be a really cool setting up point. So even if we establish Cable and then Cable goes to a television show or we get a spin-off movie, who knows? But there's a lot of cool potential here. It's an area of the X-Men world we haven't seen. So I'm excited. That's my thoughts on who the team might be, who I'd like to see on the screen. So let me know if there's other people like, hey, this person needs to be on the team, or you're way off on that, don't put them in the movie. Definitely check out my other videos. I cover a lot of Marvel topics right now because that's what's popular. Or you can go to my blog at imyourtargetdemographic.com. Read all sorts of movie reviews, thoughts, video games, anything entertainment related, and thanks for watching.